Okay, well, I wanted to touch on something that came up in social media pertaining specifically to your profession in dietetics. And so this article was posted, let's see, this article was posted 2 days ago, Wednesday, and Washington Post. And, it may have come across your wire from somebody else, or you saw it. The food industry pays, they use quotes here, influencer dietitians to shape your eating habits. So here's a headline issue in which my take of the article is that they think that these dietitians are working for, in this case, the soda industry, the beverage industry, and are engaging in unethical or going against the code of ethics in dietetics. And so my goal is I'm going to try to get Anahad to agree to be on a video with me to where we can discuss this. But I have some issues. One being, the food industry pays influencer dietitians to shape your eating habits. In this case, it's pertaining to sugar, aspartame, artificial sweeteners. But one of the things he doesn't go into is those who are paid by and work for certain entities, certain companies. So, National Cattlemen's Beef Association has a dietitian. The Dairy Council has a dietitian. The Egg Board, California Raisins, the commodity groups tend to have dietitians or tend to have dietitians on retainer or service consultants. And so it's interesting that this is just sugar. And so I know Kara here, she's in Kansas City, so she's one of the ones that he focused on. And so one of the issues, so this is a potential job, and some of you may be doing some of this work now. One of the key things is this article, I couldn't find it, and maybe it's in here and I didn't see it, but he doesn't talk about the science. The papers. He's talking about the World Health Organization's claims that aspartame, a mainstay of Diet Coke, and it's interesting he chose Diet Coke versus just saying diet soda. He specifically targeted Coke and other sodas, is ineffective for weight loss and possibly carcinogenic. And I think there's debate about the weight loss impact, and possibly carcinogenic is, so being a barber which is it's in the figure that's in the module. Being a hairstylist or barber is also increases your risk for being possibly, or is slated as, a profession that's possibly carcinogenic. And there are many others. It's in the figure infographic, that's used. That's the profession that's used in the same category. So it's possibly insufficient evidence to make a claim as such, but that's kind of one of the issues here, is highlighting the conflict of interest. And many put, it was an ad, it was sponsored, the promotion. But the issue is, so science is also sponsored by American Heart Association sponsors science. The Egg Board sponsors science, food science, General Mills, food companies, Big Food, Big Ag, whatever you want to kind of label those entities, pay for science, sponsor studies. And so it's, so the root issue is one it's viable. This is, yes. Is this a concern? Yes. The issue is, why targeting this? And so a dietitian's response, this is from Dustin Moore, is a great response. So he starts out with the rebuttal being, if we didn't have jobs that interacted with people, we'd be doing pretty good. Because whenever you engage in jobs that require communication, interaction with people, you're going to run into conflicts of interest. And either you're trying to persuade somebody, dissuade somebody, promote something, and try to get either money, sales, agreements. So for example, grant writing is persuasive. You're trying to get somebody that has money to do research on something to give it to you to see if something works relative to that research effort. And so we'll get into the grant funding conflicts here in a little bit. But one of the issues he also talks about is, since dietitians work in food, there's a high likelihood that food companies are going to be involved in some of this work. Also, colleagues across campus in food science and in agriculture tend not to get the same type of pointed attacks, I guess, for their work on similar things. They may, so the animal science folks may have, I don't know, I can't remember what they're calling themselves now. It used to be they referred to themselves as PETA, people against the ethical treatment of animals, or people for the ethical treatment of animals, against the unethical treatment of animals. Anyway, so the issues are, one, so the jobs for dietitians, clinic, public health, personal consultant, eating disorders, hospital, sports nutrition, etc. So one of the aspects are, if they're going to freelance, you have bills to pay, rent to pay, food to buy, maybe school supplies. If you don't work in government, you don't work in a clinic, where are you going to get your money from to pay those bills? Food industry's an option. The issue is, integrity is a key issue here, and making sure that what is said is supported by science. And that's one of the things that this Washington Post writer, in my opinion, wrong article, Washington Post writer, didn't seem to acknowledge. They used the basis that the World Health Organization's understanding of science is the understanding of science. And that may or may not be true, but the issue is, this is where my goal for you is to be able to not have to rely on somebody else doing this investigative work for you. So you don't have to say, well, so-and-so said. It's the data say this. And so, so it comes across as, the food and beverage and dietary supplement industries are paying dozens of registered dietitians that collectively have millions of social media followers to help sell products and deliver industry-friendly messages on Instagram and TikTok. You know, so this goes back to kind of the jobs. So if somebody's hired by the government and they're paid by the government and they're saying, following the dietary guidelines, for example, which is from government, does that mean they're selling the dietary guidelines? Are they promoting it? So a point being that these conflicts of interests and these where we are paid from. Let's see. So I'm wearing the K-State brand. That's who pays me. That's where my paycheck comes from. So does that mean K-State owns what I say, or I need to follow what K-State says? No. So one of the issues is higher education has a standard where there's one, freedom of speech, two, academic freedom to interpret things the way we think they are or should be. Is it accurate? Maybe, but we're paid to be as honest as we can regarding certain situations. And so for me, for this class, I need to be as honest as I can with helping you understand the research process. And so that's kind of one thing. If we don't have dietitians or health scientists working in this social media space, who's going to be there to be a watchdog so that sugar's bad, aspartame's bad, potentially can cause cancer. And so I think it's one of those things where sometimes we lose sight of our own conflicts of interest. So this writer, he may be a proponent of low carbohydrate. That may be his preferred. He may view sugar and sweeteners as things that contribute to obesity, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, etc. And thinks low carbohydrate, carnivore, keto diets are best. I'm not here to say they are or they aren't, but the data don't support that drinking a can of Diet Coke a day is carcinogenic. You have to get close to 10 a day. That's what, 120 ounces ish? Over 100 ounces of Diet Coke. And when you think about it, I did this. There was a program, Super Size Me. You may remember that video documentary part of it was soda, and there's been soda wars and things like that. But it can be hard to ingest that much diet soda. For example, when you go to a restaurant and you order 32 ounces, so it'd be 3 32-ounce glasses-ish. When you order soda at a restaurant, what does it come with? Ice. So how much of that 32 ounces is ice? Maybe half. If you go to some restaurants, they put a lot of ice in it, so they give you less product. And so when you're ordering 32 ounces of a product, you may only be getting 16 or 10. And so that's one of the things that gets missed in some of this is that's a lot of diet soda. It takes a lot of diet soda every day to lead to potential increased risk. So the public health message here is dose. What is the dose? And if you look at the science, and I'll post some studies from aspartame work in humans, looking at body weight, glucose, etc., and then also post some of the animal work that addresses some of this too, because there was some Coke Zero was attacked. I used Coke. It's like, why Coke? Well, because of the biggest name. It's like that's the same reason why McDonald's is the evil clown that Morgan Spurlock, I think was his name, the documentarian, used. That's why he used McDonald's as his restaurant of choice for his Super Size Me movie, which the quote unquote, I didn't name it this, Twinkie diet was partially addressing, because his rules were to eat everything he was served. But we don't have to do that. Anyway, that's getting off track. So the issues here are getting at how you're going to handle these things in the future. You will be faced, likely, if you become a dietitian or you work in the nutrition space, of people questioning your vantage point. And they may think, oh, you're paid, you receive money from, you work for, whatever. And so it's either this or that. We are still in a very binary food system where if you don't eat this, then you're eating toxic, harmful food. It's junk food. And so for example, my favorite macaroni and cheese is my grandmother's baked macaroni and cheese. I think many people call that junk food. It's like, no, it's from my grandmother and it tasted wonderful. I wouldn't throw it away. I would eat it. Now, we can debate how much I should eat and how often. Those things are, from a health perspective, fine. But I think we need to get rid of the toxic junk, garbage, harmful, disease-causing, etc., because at typical doses that we consume these foods, they don't do that. Now, there's some cases in which people may overeat, but it's typically these are combined with excessive intakes. That's a dose. Okay, excessive intakes. That does not mean aspartame in and of itself is cancerous. At a certain dose, it's been found to lead to cancer in animals in particular. And it's a high dose. So just something, I'm posting this just so that you're aware. It's probably come across your social media at some point. I'm going to try to get this author, Anahad O'Connor, on the phone, or maybe one of his co-authors, just to talk about it, because so a lot of these they were consultants versus there's some people who are specifically paid by a company or commodity to promote their products, whether they be dairy, beef. I'm not saying that shouldn't happen. We need people that understand the health implications of eating X, Y, or Z. But to just say that somebody paid you because you don't like big food and evil capitalism, and that's a different discussion for a different day. That's not this class. It's economics and other ways, but that's currently the way our system works for people to get paid to feed their families and to have a livelihood. But I just wanted to to expose you to this because when you work in the food and health realm, you're likely going to get attacked from somewhere by somebody. I just don't want you to be surprised by, hey, why am I getting trolled or bullied or canceled because science says this, or at least your interpretation of science is this, and you have data to support your stance, evidence-based approach. That's kind of the basis of this class. That's why this class is so important, is so that you follow science versus follow trends versus following the dollar. Yes, we need to get paid to have a livelihood. But we can't let it dictate our perspective as much as we humanly can. Just like, yes, K-State is a wonderful institution. I'm glad you are all here, enrolled through K-State. Are there other programs out there that do a good job? Yeah, probably. Do I think K-State is a great option and one of the better options? Yes, I do. Is it because I work here? Yes. And so there is a conflict of interest. I work at K-State, so I'm probably going to promote aspects of K-State. Are there bad parts of K-State? Yes. Are there bad parts of other institutions? Yes. Harvard is now getting criticized, and people are now kind of canceling Harvard because of some of the decisions they've made. Is everybody at Harvard in that same boat? No. Is everybody at K-State give the best light of K-State? No, probably not. Now, are there issues for why people have bad days, bad experiences? Absolutely. Individuals, so if I go to a business, my demeanor towards the employees at that business can play a role in how they treat me. So I'm implicit in some of that treatment, the hospitality, if you will. I can have a bad day. My illnesses, I'm having to kind of re-gear my how I do things because of how my executive function was affected by cancer treatment, both surgery and chemotherapy and radiation. So in essence, we need to take this type of stuff and put it in context. If we didn't have these people, we would have nobody between the influencers, the true influencers who know very little about the science that's going on here, and the consumer. So while they may be paid to do this kind of work to inform consumers, and then the consumers, since they do have ad-sponsored wording, need to take it for how they value it and their consideration of the truth. But consumers also need to, and if people find certain health professionals tend to repeat limited scientific perspectives. That is, there's a lot of data that go against what they're saying. They will have fewer followers over time. Because as more scientists, this is where, as a future for you, I'm trying to get more involved in being a voice of scientific reason as best I can, much like Carl Sagan. We're human, though, and humans make mistakes. My issue and my request to you is that you're open to changing. So maybe aspartame, there's more data that comes out that, oh, wait, maybe when aspartame is ingested with X chemical, there is a synergistic effect that makes the likelihood of cancer worse, or the counter part of it could be maybe there's something that in another fruit or vegetable or other food that negates the carcinogenic properties of aspartame when consumed in high quantities. The issue is the dose of aspartame that most people consume, diet soda, is fine. So drinking Diet Coke, this is no ad. I'm not getting paid by anybody. Well, K-State. But from my understanding of science, typical consumption of diet soda, not a problem. So I'm going to leave it there. Feel free to, I'm going to create a discussion link to talk about this kind of stuff, because this does fall into the IRB, the ethics section, the code of ethics. So I encourage you, I put this article, the other article up. Oh, and I guess let me go here. I also added, so I put this in here. This is a very important, significant issue in the field. And for whatever reason, big ag, big pharma, big food, big sugar, big government tends to get attacked for whatever reason. And so here's the infographic for the World Health Organization and basically risks, carcinogenic to humans, tobacco smoking, solar radiation, etc., just radiation, emissions from high temperature frying. So so does that mean like steak so that's not a sugar or sweetener? I'm not saying it is. I'm being sarcastic. I'm playing the devil's advocate. I'm being snarky, but I'm trying to do so in a way that illustrates the weakness of the argument that was presented in this write-up, because it's not scientific. So going back to the very beginning, pseudoscience is what this is. It is evidence, but it is weak evidence because they don't go into, at least I didn't see it, go into the studies and the science to refute what the dietitians were saying. Your future colleagues, maybe your colleagues now. So exhaust, this is to be possibly carcinogenic to humans. Probably carcinogenic. So it's not even known. Evidence tends to be better. So the issue is probable versus possible. Why is it 2A, 2B? Why is it not 1, 2, 3, 4? And so also they have this group 3 that's not classifiable as carcinogenic. And so it's like, so why even list it? And potentially these things could be carcinogenic if in different aspects. So if you drink crude oil, that's probably not going to be good over time versus being exposed to it, like have it on your skin or something like that. Anyway, so I'll leave it there. Thank you for your time, and have a great weekend. This came up on social media. Again, I'm going to try to get at least one of the authors to join me on a video call to discuss the issues that were presented here, to get an insight, and hopefully maybe I will become educated, they can learn something, you can learn something, and so use it as an educational opportunity. Anyway, be well, have a great weekend, and talk to you soon.